I had an interaction with somebody at a protest today in East Portland that really, well, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It really confirmed for me something that I've been thinking the last few days. I think I'd always known it, and I just needed to be reminded. And please understand, I say this as somebody who makes content on TikTok. A lot of this here in this space is complete and total bullshit. A lot of the interactions we have here don't really matter. A lot of the content people make on here makes them a lot of money, but it's fucking pointless. It's a distraction. It's a time suck from good work that we actually could be doing to actually create change, to actually impact people's lives, protect people from what this regime is doing, and organize to try and fucking stop it. And do my best not to crash out in this video. So I went to this protest in East Portland today. I'm part of the safety team for my local Indivisible chapter. That means I help with, making sure that we de-escalate situations, direct traffic. We're the people who will help you get to the first aid tent if you need it, who will bring you water, who kind of make sure that people aren't getting into the street where they're going to be endangering themselves with traffic. If there are counter protesters or agitators or issues, it's our job to deal with it, not the folks who are there to protest. It's not their job to put themselves in harm's way. The volunteers on the safety team, we have some training and we are willing to fill that role. So another thing that is involved in being on the safety team, I have noticed, after doing lots of protests this year with Indivisible, is that a large percentage of the people who come to our protests consistently are quite elderly. And we could have, and I have had conversations about why aren't there more Gen Z showing up? How can we get more millennials to participate? Whatever, that's not the point. The reality is, pretty much all across the country, if there are protests happening, older Americans are going to be there. Those folks often need a lot of support and assistance. They need protests that are accessible. They have mobility limitations. They often need to sit in a chair. That's why honk and wave protests are so good for older folks, to be able to advocate for themselves, their neighbors, etc. So let me talk about this interaction that I had today. We will call the woman Rosemary. So part of my job on the safety team today was to make sure that I documented what was happening, especially if there were troublemakers, right? So I'm documenting and I'm kind of roaming around the protest. And out of the corner of my eye, I can see two elderly women who are coming down the sidewalk, and they can't see yet that the sidewalk is going to end when they round the corner and the terrain is going to get much more uneven. And they were carrying signs and flags and a folding chair. And I could see that one of the women was going to have a very difficult time navigating the terrain after the sidewalk finished. So I stepped away from what my job was and I ran over and said, "Hey, can I help you ladies? Maybe we could go back around this way and go through the parking lot so it's more of an even surface. And can I carry your chair and your signs for you? Where can we help you set up?" Just two of the sweetest ladies. And this older woman, again, let's just call her Rosemary for the sake of this conversation. Quite elderly, quite frail, hunched over, definitely having balance issues. Immediately, takes my hand and we strike up a conversation. I take her signs from her, take her chair. She tells me this is the 6th protest she has been to since Trump got inaugurated. I don't want to speculate on her age, but she was quite elderly. She told me that she lives almost entirely off of her Social Security check. She's very worried that that's going to go away. One of the first things that she said to me was, "Do you know that I have to collect cans to help pay my rent? And my rent is now going up." This is a little old lady who lives by herself, who's quite frail, who should be enjoying her retirement. And in the United States of America in 2025, she has to collect cans to pay her rent. She needed assistance walking to the protest site. She is struggling. She is living in poverty in East Portland. I'll get back to that in a second because I actually found out that she's my neighbor. She lives in my neighborhood. Now, I want to make it very clear, she wasn't complaining about her situation at all. The reason that I found this out about her is because as we were walking, she saw some homeless folks who were collecting cans in the park where we were protesting. And she was like, "Ooh, do they get their cans here? Could I come and pick up cans here so that I can have food to eat and pay my bills and pay my rent?" I just, these are not people that are on TikTok, y'all. These are not people that are making think pieces on social media. And these are not people that are arguing about shit that just it's so fucking inconsequential when we look at the way that people are suffering in real time, right now, in their real lives, in our communities. And we're making think pieces on TikTok. So then she asked me, "Do you know any other good places to get cans?" And I used this as an opportunity to say, oh, are you on Facebook? Have you thought about joining your local Buy Nothing group? Because I know that people in my neighborhood Buy Nothing group often will post like, oh, I have extra cans if somebody needs them. Or an older, it's always an older person will post, I'm having trouble paying my bills. Does anybody have extra cans this month? And my goal was not for her to collect more cans on Buy Nothing. I had an ulterior motive, which is let's get you connected with people who live in your neighborhood, right? Buy Nothing is a great way to build relationships with people who live in your neighborhood and get more support. So together we opened up her phone, got into her Facebook and searched up Buy Nothing. And I was like, hey, what neighborhood do you live in? And she said, oh, I live in Parkrose. And I was like, girl, where do you live in Parkrose? And she told me she lives on my street. And I know exactly which apartment complex she lives in. I'm sorry, I'm really having a hard time with this video. And so I was like, okay, can I give you my number? Can we like get in contact with each other? You can text me or call me anytime. If you need a ride to go get your medication, if you need groceries, if you need help paying your rent, like please can you put my number in your phone? And she was like, yeah, let's be friends. And so I got her set up in her position with her friend, up at the curb, got her chair set up, and we're just continuing to chat. And she said, oh, I email and I call my senators. She's like, I love Jeff Merkley, and I email Bernie Sanders and I tell him what life is like out here for us older folks. And she said, I just don't understand that man in the White House. How does he not know how bad he's hurting everybody? Doesn't he see that we are all hurting? So we had a number of conversations throughout the protest, right? I ended up having to go back to my job, but I would stop and we would keep talking. And I know I said this in a video on my backup TikTok yesterday, but I had a conversation with a couple of friends about the internet discourse that's been happening. And they are activists in real life in the Midwest, and they don't do social media. They don't do TikTok. And both of them in this group chat that we're in rightly chastised me. They're like, girl, how much time and energy and attention have you given to TikTok discourse that like we don't know about, most Americans don't care about? People who are being targeted by this regime, like they don't care about the internet drama. It feels really, really important to people on TikTok, but the rest of us do not give a shit. And they were like, how many hours in your week can you reclaim for mutual aid, for caring for your neighbors? And this interaction with Rosemary today at the protest just really solidified it for me. Like I said at the beginning, it hit me like a ton of bricks. What are we doing in this space? I know a lot of people here are not activists. I know a lot of people here, like they're here to make a living. They're here because they enjoy content creation, because they enjoy arguing with other people on the internet. They aren't necessarily here with the same goals, but I really clearly know what my goals are. I know where my values lie. I know what kind of work I want to be doing. We are not going to find and care for the Rosemarys of America who are living on the edge by sitting around doing TikTok discourse, by letting the algorithm feed us content that just sucks our time and draws our energy and our engagement. I've always had a really significant love-hate relationship with social media. I understand that it's not all good, it's not all bad. But goddamn y'all, like if you want to help the people who are being harmed by the Trump regime, you have to get out there and help them. How much of our time and our energy is being carved out for our real life community care? How much of our time and energy is being reserved, our resources are being reserved for caring for the folks who are the most vulnerable under the Trump regime, for the folks who need our help and our support? Because the only way that we are going to get through this is with community. The only way we are going to survive what's happening now is by caring for each other, is by developing those relationships and support networks. I don't just mean in terms of organizing for greater lifts like a general strike. We need all those connections in order to do things like that, but also just to make sure that people on the edge actually survive, right? Like they actually live through this period. And talking with Rosemary and having her tell me how she contacts her elected officials every day and how she's so sad that this is the time that we're living in. And her focus was not really about herself. It was about people who are even more vulnerable than she is. She's worried about children. She's worried about immigrants. She's really worried about our veterans. She kept saying, it's not right. It's not right what they're doing. And we can't sit by and do nothing to stop it. I will be reaching out to Rosemary and making sure that she gets support. She lives like 20 blocks away from me. But y'all, there's people like Rosemary in your neighborhood. I don't even know how to end this video. I'm not trying to dunk on other creators, but I am asking us to think about where our priorities lie and how we actually help us all get through this.